Joining us now to talk all about this, Adele Keim, legal counsel for the Becket Fund, and Ari Rabin-Havt, the host of The Agenda and the former advisor to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. We thank you both for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Great to be here.
It is good to have you, and according to the majority opinion, again written by Justice Alito, quoting now, the HHS contraceptive mandate substantially burdens the exercise of religion. The government has failed to show that the contraceptive mandate is the least restrict means of furthering that interest. So that is Justice Alito. Adele, first to you. The court ruling in favor of Hobby Lobby. As you take a look at this, and I'm sure people are taking a closer look at the opinion, getting a chance to read it. First of all, the ruling in your mind in terms of religious freedom, is it a landmark case that will be far-reaching in favor of First Amendment rights?
Look, today, so I'm Adele Keim. I'm counsel for Hobby Lobby. I work with the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty. We represent people of all faiths. We've been very proud to represent the Greens. They're evangelical Christians. They only object to 4 out of 16 contraceptive methods, not including the contraceptive methods used by the overwhelming majority of American women, such as the pill. They just object to those contraceptives that may cause the death of an embryo. It's not that they want to control what their employees do with their money, their time, or their medical decisions. It's just that they don't want to have to pay for it. And what the court found today in a very narrow and very balanced decision was that, you know, the government in this case has lots of other ways to get contraceptives out. They spend $300 million of federal tax money every year to distribute free and low-cost contraceptives to American women. They don't need to force the Greens to pay for it. And you know what else they don't need to do? They don't need to force the Little Sisters of the Poor or Mother Angelica's Catholic TV network, EWTN, to pay for it either. So I'm very hopeful that the administration will get the message and call off its war on men.
All right, Adele, we thank you for that and for elaborating on your association with the case. Ari, as you take a look at this, as we know, there's always a legal aspect, but there's a political aspect to the case as well. What do you think the likely response is going to be from the Democrats controlling the U.S. Senate or the Democrat National Committee?
Well, look, I think this will continue our point about conservatives and their policies towards women. I think I'm thankful that the decision was seemingly a narrowly tailored one, and the judges gave instructions in the decision saying telling the Obama administration, here's how you provide these women with birth control. You actually do the exact same thing that the Little Sisters of the Poor are complaining about. You put them in that category, which does signal where the justices are coming down in that case, which will probably be heard in a year or so.
Well, Ari, you know, considering this is now the law of the land, to use the parlance that so often comes from the Supreme Court here, don't you think that excuse is a little tired, the war on women excuse?
No, I don't think it's a little tired. I think it doesn't, first off, just relate to this decision. It relates to, frankly, an anti-contraceptive movement in this country, and there is one that is dangerous to women.
Well, let's go to the lone woman who is part of this panel discussion, Adele. Now, Adele, in your earlier answer, you articulated that this does not deal with all contraception, but deals with, I guess, what we would call abortifacients. Do you want to amplify that? And then just your personal opinion about the political aspect of the, quote, war on women.
Sure, and if you can't hear me, let me know. I'm right outside the Supreme Court, and there's a lot of movement. There are a lot of young people here applauding the decision today. So just to respond, the Greens and the Hans and many of the other family business owners and religious nonprofits that are challenging the mandate have no problem with contraception per se. They only have issues with the narrow class of emergency contraceptives that the government itself admits may sometimes act to destroy a newly created human embryo. Look, many of these drugs, including Plan B and Ella, are available. You can get them on the internet. They can be overnighted to you for $40. Plan B, it's available over the counter without a prescription. So these drugs are widely available to American women by and large, and there's no reason to force the Greens and the Hans and the Little Sisters of the Poor and Mother Angelica to pay for and provide them themselves. Women have been deeply involved in this fight from the start. Barbara Green was the co-founder of Hobby Lobby. Her daughter, Darcy Lett, is a co-owner to this day, intimately involved in the operations of the company. Elizabeth Hahn is the mother and co-founder of the family that brought us Conestoga Wood, which is the co-plaintiff here, the Little Sisters of the Poor, Mother Angelica. So I just think the war on women, which women? Because sometimes it feels like it's a war on religious women. So that's really the bottom line about these cases.
And this goes to the heart of it, the First Amendment. Ari, let's get your response. I think Adele framed this question. War on women, is it a war on women of faith exercising their faith? Because Adele made the case it's not that these abortifacients are not available, it's just the notion of providing them in a specific health insurance plan provided by a private employer.
Well, first I would contest the abortifacients argument based on the amicus brief filed by the American Association of OBGYNs, filed an amicus brief saying these were not abortifacients, and I recognize there were other amicus briefs saying other things, but I would tend towards the OBGYN's professional society here. I think there have been a number of Republican policies and conservative policies here that are plainly bad for women in the workplace, and bad for women in terms of their health care. And I think this is all tied together. And I think there is no war on religious women. Nobody would force religious women to take or be party to medicine they don't want. But our healthcare system is a jointly held together system. And what's weird to me about this decision is the Supreme Court said, we are putting this to the side, but all these other aspects, you couldn't say, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses who are opposed to blood transfusions can object to blood transfusion. I don't understand why this in particular is different when there are other religious objections to other policies.
Well, let's go to the attorney who's here, Adele Keim. Give her a chance to answer, and then we got to follow up on a couple of other subjects with you, Ari. Last word on this case to you, Adele.
Absolutely. Listen, the reason the government couldn't defend itself in this is because it's already exempted plans covering over 100 million American workers from complying with the contraceptive mandate to keep the president's political promise that you can keep the plan you have. When the administration exempts people for political reasons, it has to exempt them for religious reasons as well. That's what the First Amendment says, and that's what the court said today.
Adele, we thank you. We know you're there in front of the court. We thank you for calling in. The miracle of cell phones. Thanks for weighing in on this. And Ari, before we let you go, a couple of other questions coming from today's headlines, and that has to deal. We'll leave the Supreme Court for a second and go to illegal immigration. I'm just curious what you think can happen in view of the young people coming into the country. Do you believe there will still be some sort of bipartisan bill on illegal immigration coming to the House floor this summer from the Republican leadership?
In this Congress?
Yes.
Never. No, never. This Congress can't do anything else. Why will they take on an issue that is so polarizing and so complicated? I don't think there's a chance on God's green earth that this comes to the House floor and that there is a bill that the House and Senate can agree on. I know people on my side want to hope against hope, but frankly, hope doesn't deliver votes. Well,
let's talk more than hope. Let's talk about money. $2 billion the president wants to appropriate for those who have come across our border illegally. The description given is that these are, quote, children. We know that more than 80% are males between the ages of 14 and 18. That aside, $2 million would be a drop in the bucket. Are you prepared, because your former boss Harry Reid appears to be, are you prepared to spend, quote, whatever it takes to accommodate this burgeoning population, and you really want to see comprehensive immigration reform?
Look, I do. I think first on comprehensive immigration reform, I think we can all agree, whether we disagree on the solutions, that our immigration system is completely broken in this country right now. So there needs to be some sort of comprehensive deal that brings right and left together to fix it. I don't know what could possibly do that, but I think we can all agree what's going on the border, what is going on in our workplaces, what is going on in immigration in general is broken, and there needs to be a fix. So that's first of all. Second, look, I think children comprise a different category. I think regardless of what you think about the actions of parents, I think minors to me are a separate category.
And we'll have to leave it right there. Ari Rabin-Havt, we thank you very much. Also, we thank Adele Keim for joining us from the steps of the Supreme Court. Major news being made today, and we've got more of it for you coming up next on America's Forum.